Human encounter with unidentified flying objects and the beings that pilot them are normally one-sided affairs, the human being playing unwilling guinea pig to the all-powerful extraterrestrials. Zapped into their craft, ruthlessly experimented upon, implanted with mysterious devices, and generally at the whim to unknown designs of the aliens in question. Not so in Siberia in the late 1980s, however, according to a classified KGB document that found its way into the hands of U.S. intelligence services. The document, 250 pages in length, contained photographs, drawings, as well as testimonies from those who survived the encounter. In short, a thorough document of what took place that day. According to a CIA member who read the file and made a report on it, the encounter was
a horrific picture of revenge on the part of extraterrestrial creatures, a picture that makes one's blood freeze.
So what exactly happened in the far reaches of northern Russia that day? Well, hold on to your hat, because this one isn't for the faint of heart. The encounter in question took place in Siberia sometime in the late 80s, when a detachment of Russian military out on training maneuvers encountered a low-flying unidentified object, only for a member of the detachment to take a misguided initiative and fire some description of surface-to-air missile at the craft. The craft then crashed to Earth. What happened then was the terrifying reality of an encounter with beings not of this Earth. Just as with simple citizens who encounter aliens and experience the helplessness of dealing with beings vastly more intelligent and technologically advanced, the unit of Russian soldiers were to quickly realize they were dealing with a different order of threat than one they were trained for. According to the report, 5 short humanoids with large heads and large black eyes exited the remnants of the downed craft. They then quickly merged together into a spherical shape, the shape emitting a buzzing and hissing sound, before becoming brilliant white. Within seconds the sphere grew much bigger, then flared up into a light that turned 23 members of the army unit into posts of stone-like material. Only 2 soldiers remained alive, both of whom were partially sheltered from the bright light, ensuring they weren't exposed to it like other members of the unit. Both the dead soldiers and the debris of the UFO were transferred to a secret scientific research institute near Moscow, where tests could be conducted on both. Although the report is scant on what was discovered, including what became of the aliens, it does include a bizarre finding of the research institute, namely that the formerly organic matter of the soldiers' bodies had been turned to a substance molecularly identical to limestone. The encounter is both alarming and horrific, revealing a deadly alien menace with powers we can hardly comprehend. However, it does seem to offer only an incomplete picture of the event. According to the report, the Army unit were conducting routine training maneuvers in the area, that the missile used to down the craft was shot accidentally. All of this seems a little convenient, and an attempt to obscure high-level military interaction with unidentified objects, or at least downplay it. Whilst it might not have been unusual for a military unit of the time on so-called routine training maneuvers to be armed with surface-to-air missiles that could take down a UFO, it does seem a little unusual. As does the inclusion the missile firing was unexpected. In other words, command was never officially given to fire at the object. Military involvement with UFOs is not uncommon. With their radar and capacity to track and even attempt intercepting unidentified aerial vehicles, militaries from across the world have given us some of the best footage we have of strange aerial phenomena. On the face of it, this interaction is often reported as happenstance, as though the UFOs wandered into their operational sphere. However, events that day in Siberia and their deadly aftermath seem a little too neat to be considered happenstance, much like events that took place in the famous Roswell case in the USA, when many witnesses saw a saucer-shaped aerial vehicle crash not far from town. What's often left out of the story of Roswell are the testimonies of witnesses who claim U.S. Army personnel were almost immediately swarming the crash site, intimidating locals and helping to cover up the downed alien saucer. Like many UFO sightings and encounters, the veracity is often questioned, with cynics suggesting the UFO narrative, if not a hoax, is a means to cover up, misinform and ensure what really happened, whether in Roswell or Siberia, never becomes public knowledge. Based on the testimonies of the 2 soldiers who survived the incident, and their assertions the other soldiers turned to pillars of stone, is suggestive the use of experimental and highly exotic weaponry was been tested by the Soviets. A weapon the soldiers were either intentionally or accidentally exposed to. The flaring bright light that killed the soldiers is suggestive of nuclear detonation, or the implementation of a new, truly awful armament. Precedent exists for using soldiers as guinea pigs in nuclear testing. United States GIs were unknowing victims during the U.S. Army's Desert Rock exercises of the 1950s, when it carried out tactical maneuvers immediately after nuclear detonation at the Nevada Proving Grounds. The objective being that troops would gain knowledge of how to operate on a nuclear battlefield, as well, whether intentionally or not, allow Army scientists to study the effects of radiation on contaminated soldiers. If exotic weapon or nuclear test, however, it would seem the cover-up has been thorough and successful. Was this truly the Russian Roswell? Was a crack team of the Soviet military able to jam and disable the flight of a UFO before blowing it out of the sky? Or was it something else? The Soviet testing of exotic weapons, perhaps? Unfortunately, we'll probably never know. The subsequent report made by a CIA personnel from the 250-page document is sketchy at best, missing key information to build a fuller picture of goings on that day. Until we can one day access the KGB file in its entirety, we can only guess at the true events that happened on that fateful and deadly day in Siberia.